So we're in Plymouth today with the Weld Space. Tell me a little bit about what you do here.
The Weld Space is a creative workshop in Plymouth that's open access, and it runs welding lessons and furniture making courses, predominantly using Mig Welding, Tig Welding and stick welding processes. So we're here with Dom and we're going to go through the studio stool course, which is one of our popular courses where we do a bit of Mig Welding and Tig Welding, and then we're going to make a stool by the end of the day and do some tube bending and furniture assembly. So one of the main welding processes we have available and is most commonly used in the sort of industry is Mig Welding. So Mig Welding stands for metal inert gas welding, one of the more common welding processes, and some say a bit more forgiving. And the sort of art of Mig Welding is basically marrying the power of the machine with the wire feed speed. So we're going to have a little practice on some scrap metal first. We'd always do this in our classes. I'll come around on a one-to-one basis and help you, and then we'll get used to what the machines do and try and produce some nice welds. The Mig 180 machines we've got here from rtech, they go up to 180 amps, which is more than enough for most welding projects we do. The very basics would be spot welding, so we want to produce a few spot welds to get going. And then just for a bit of practice, we're going to try a little bit of joinery. So we've got a simulated fillet weld here, which we'll do a couple of spot welds to hold it together, and then we'll give a go at having a go at doing some fillet welds. Not particularly pretty, but we're only practicing. And then we've got our simulated fillet weld. So just to do a bit of practice, we'll come in right here. So we've done a bit of Mig welding practice and had good success of that. One of the other welding processes we have available today or available at the Weld Space is Tig Welding. So Tig Welding stands for tungsten inert gas welding. It's a process that you might use for much more finer pieces of metal. It's very detailed, very precise. It's a bit slower and not as forgiving as Mig welding. So we've got the nice small TIG welder today, which is basically good for mild steel and stainless steel. So we're going to have a little practice on mild steel and produce some nice little weld passes. So the main dial we've got here is amps. So simply just rotate it, the more power you get from the machine. So we've got 160 amps there, more than capable of welding up to a sort of 5 mil thick steel. And then as we go through the dials, it gets slightly more technical. So we've got a setting here called downslope, which basically, when you stop welding, it reduces the power, and that's done in seconds. So if you want to have the weld puddle cool slowly, and this is really helpful for stainless steel, you can set the downslope to maybe 5 seconds. So by the time you get your finger off the trigger, it takes 5 seconds for the machine to completely stop. So we've got pulse settings, which is basically about the heat of the weld puddle. And you can have the machine bounce from 160 amps to 50 amps, 150 amps to 60 amps over a period of time, and that generally happens very quickly. So it's in seconds, measured in microseconds sometimes. We're welding sort of 3 mil thick steel, so we're going to give a go at 90 amps and see if that's enough. Yeah, so obviously one of the main differences in TIG welding is the torch. So Mig welding, you've got a big trigger to pull, and in TIG welding we've got a nice little soft button. To break down the torch, here we've got the cup. So we're using a gas lens today, which basically creates a much greater shield around the weld puddle, and we're also using pure argon, so it's a nice great bit of covering there. And then we've also got a tungsten electrode, so that's the T in TIG welding. The tungsten electrode strikes an arc between the piece of metal that we're welding and the end of the electrode, and together it melts the base metal into a molten pool, and then we can add the filler rod, which is a mild steel rod, to produce a nice weld. as part of the stool making course, we do a bit of light fabrication to make a bracket which holds the stool together. So we've got our components here, they're all prepared, ready for welding, and now we want to offer them up and basically weld them together using the spot welding method we used in the morning, and then we're going to use a simple butt joint. We're quite fortunate today, so we're going to use the TIG welding because there's not many of us, just me and Dom. But normally on that course we do use the Mig welding process as a bit more suitable.
Now we've done a bit of welding, so we've done a bit of MIG and TIG welding. We're going on to making the stool, so what are we doing now?
Yeah, so in the afternoon we're going to do a bit of tube bending today. So this is the stool we're going to make. Obviously it doesn't come out like that immediately. We have to bend the two legs together and weld everything. So we made the plate which holds everything together, and now we're making the legs. So this is what we're aiming for. We've got our tube here all marked out, ready to go, and this is our template. So a little bit about tube bend for those who don't want to, those who don't want to know anything about it. We've just got a manual tube bender here with a set die, and we're bending a very large radius. So we use something called the centre line radius, and that dictates how big the bend is. So the centre line radius for this jig is about 70 millimeters, and that will give us a nice large radius. Not too bad, we need a little bit more. Let's offer it this way. That's a bit better, isn't it?
Awesome.
We've got our two legs.
Lovely.
This is where we use squeezy clamps to hold everything together. So here we've got the final assembly jig, which allows us to hold the profile of the stool that we're going to make and make sure the seat is kept nice and level.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we've got our piece of furniture now assembled, but low means welded up. So what we're going to do is add some spot welds to the top, as we did earlier. We're welding thin stuff to thick stuff, which is always a bit tricky, but we're going to get a spot weld on each tube, which holds it in place, and then we'll weld up the remainder of the tube so it's nice and strong. What we'll do, we'll try and weld it up in one pass, but if we can't do one pass, what's the alternative? Is we'll do lots of little spot welds and stack them up on each other, and it ends up producing a reasonably neat looking joint. All the welding for the piece of furniture complete.
Awesome.
So we've done all the welding for the stool. It's assembled, it's nice and robust, but as with all welding jobs, you sometimes have to clean up the excess welds. So we've got our grinder, we've got our PPE, and it's a bit of an awkward shape, so we take it slowly, and we're going to grind away the excess welds and make sure we've got a nice finished piece of furniture at the end for the end of the day.
Cool. Right.
Right, so the moment of truth, to make sure it fits, we'll get some screws in there, and maybe we need to do a bit of grinding. No, it fits, there you go.
Awesome.
We'll get some screws in there.
so that was the end of the stall course here with Richard. So in one day we've learned a bit of MIG, a bit of TIG, a bit of tube bending, which I never thought I'd be doing. And we've done a bit of woodwork. So if someone wanted to do this, how much would it cost? How do you book it?
So the stool making course is £140 per person. If you bring a friend, you get it 10% off both tickets, so it reduces the price quite a bit. You can visit the Weld Space website at www.theweldspace.co.uk. Scroll down till you find the stool making course and book yourself on. We run them every few weeks and they do fill up quickly, so you better get your ticket early.
Awesome. This would be a good Christmas present for my missus.